The increased tensions in Cold War II have seen that NATO's eastern flank is hosting an increased NATO military presence, one that includes the Brits. Now, they say that more sweat means less blood, and British military forces have been honing their skills in recent manoeuvres. We're off to talk to a former top-flight British military officer on his way through Warsaw. So join me, Jan Darasz, for how we got here.
And some of you may remember I was
After almost 3.5 decades of peace, European nations are once again turning their focus to issues of security. As world leaders slowly begin to recognize Russia's intentions, some countries have made it a priority to increase military spending.
Because as Poland remembers, Russia won't stop at Ukraine. Putin will keep going, putting Europe, the United States, and the entire free world at risk, in my view.
After the fall of communism in 1989, international tensions died down and most of Europe was able to enjoy a period of relative peace. Countries turned their attention away from military spending and prioritized other sectors of their economies. Data from the World Bank shows that between 1995 and 2012, the United Kingdom decreased its military spending by some 2% of its GDP. That trend began to reverse in 2022, following Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine. The topic of military expenditure has been a major talking point among NATO allies in recent years. In his trademark blunt style, Donald Trump called on his fellow heads of state to reconsider the security spendings back in 2019.
8 countries plus us, plus the United States, that are fully paid. They met the goal of 2%. We call them the 2%ers. Someday we'll raise it to 3% and 4%, maybe, but right now we have it. But these are countries that have not been delinquent. They've been, in some cases, even more than 2% because they feel so strongly about what we're doing.
Little did he know how prescient his words would prove to be. Europe, its hand forced by Vladimir Putin's belligerent pursuit of an expanding Russian world, has since made an about-face-on security policy. The Russian Federation, meanwhile, has gone from partner to adversary.
We're delighted to welcome General Sir Simon Mayall to Warsaw. We managed to intercept him on his travels in Poland, and he is a former top British Army officer and an advisor on the Middle East to the British Ministry of Defence. So welcome to Warsaw and to Poland.
Thank you very much, Jan. Delighted to be here.
Now, broaden out the discussion now. There's a saying that good fences make for good neighbours, but obviously in this part of the world, depends on the neighbour, depends on the fences. What are the types of security that we can do to preserve the fences that we have, preserve national borders? Or is this an idea that can be ebb and flow with war and diplomacy?
I think it can. We all had very high hopes, those of a certain age, with the end of the Cold War, the collapse of the Soviet Union, obviously, particularly dear to the hearts of Poles, that seizing once again of independence and rejoining the community of European nations. But that holiday from history is sadly over. And again, the old cry, if you want peace, prepare for war, tragically, but it is the nature. And I think particularly a country like Poland, in the geographical position you are with the neighbours you've had over history. And therefore I'm very conscious that Poland is investing a lot in your own defence, building up of your own armed forces. I'm hoping to go and see one of your attestation, I think, parades somewhere in Warsaw. But equally, you need good friends as well. And I think Poland is becoming an increasingly important part of NATO, an increasingly capable member of NATO. And I'm delighted the other NATO countries have made it very clear that Poland's security is as much our security.
Yes, it's certainly investing GDP in terms of its money into the new kit. But there's almost a militarization of this part of Europe for understandable reasons, and yet looking at Western Europe from our perspective, it seems that they are still have this, as you said, holiday from history. Is that still true, accurate from the British perspective, the French perspective? How would you look at Europe from that side of Europe?
Yes, and fun enough, both you would, I think, in Poland would quite rightly question the commitment of some of the Western European nations to put their money where their mouth is. And we're also, of course, getting that from the other side of the Atlantic. But President Obama, President Trump, maybe soon to be again President Trump, who knows, have been very critical about, in general, NATO nations' commitments. I think we could say that Poland is a notable exception to that. But it does worry me that despite everything we've seen since probably 2008, then Crimea 2014, and then obviously the more recent invasion of Ukraine, that the Western governments are not matching their rhetoric or the scale of the threat with a commitment to a sort of remilitarization. I can understand that. The problem is, of course, we took a peace dividend, a big one. We reinvested what I call bribing voters with their own money, with the welfare state and the health system. We took a risk on defence. And really, we don't appear to have leaders who, and I say that in general terms, I'm not overly critical of my own country, statesmen, I suppose, prepared to say this is the reality to their population.
I mean, when I was younger, the British Army numbered 250,000 or thereabouts, and now less than 70,000.
Well, Army was 160,000 when I joined in 1979, 1980, and it's 70 now.
Is that sort of critical, or is that reversible, do you think, the numbers? How does Britain...
These things are always reversible. It is very interesting. It takes political will, but it does take resources. And the problem, I think, again, for most Western European countries, and I think Poland is an exception, your economy is growing for all sorts of good free market reasons. But we have a huge debt. We're paying probably interest on that debt, this is Britain, at probably 1.5 times our defence budget. And we have spending plans that leave a government very little room for manoeuvre. They can't raise taxation, they can't borrow more money without just thing, and they are not yet, particularly in an election year, prepared to make big choices. Now, the same is true of Spain, Italy, Germany, France. So all of them are slightly constrained by the reality. But in the meantime, of course, and nobody would be more aware than the Polish people, there's a threat growing. And although it's been heavily weakened, the military threat from Russia, by the actions in Ukraine, the long-term prospects are still of a neighbour, as you said, that is for which we're going to need a bloody big fence for quite a long time, I think. And
you quite rightly said that it's all about changes in spending your money, and one of the eternal truths of war is that it's a hugely expensive enterprise, and depending on if you channel it into the welfare state, you're not going to be making the military investment that's necessary.
And in democracy, of course, it's very difficult to. Well, it's not difficult, but a lot of politicians are very loath to make that to make the case for higher defence spending, because it has to come from somewhere else if you're not growing the economy. And I think that, again, is the interesting lesson we're seeing with Poland. You are growing your economy, which does give you the capacity to make those balances. If the economy isn't growing, you've got to cut somewhere.
But there's a relationship also between the army, the armed forces, and the society which it represents and defends and recruits from. In Britain, has Britain lost this martial virtue that it had for centuries?
No, I don't think so. I think it's very much there. Size has a quality of its own, as we know.
Yeah.
It is important, and I think, although again, one of the things after the end of the Cold War was an idea that we could invest in technology, precision, we could do it at distance. Certain operations led us to believe that. I think watching what's going on in Ukraine does tell you once again that armies need to be of a size.
Yes.
I think there's plenty of propensity for youngsters to join the British military. What you've got to do is offer make the offer. But you do have to invest it. You have to pay.
Yes.
There's no doubt about it. It's a skilled job. It demands a lot, again, as your soldiers will know as much as any. So if you're a serious army that trains hard and is, at the core of it, understands the purpose, which is to defend the nation, even for the ultimate sacrifice. But no, I think I'd like to think the martial spirit. We've never been a militaristic nation, but you're quite right to use the term martial. We've been proud of our Army, Navy and Air Force. Again, great shared history great shared history. My father commanded RAF Northolt, where a lot of the Polish fighter squadrons were based. So I feel that sort of connection as well.
We've seen
so yes, I want to remain positive, but it is time for some serious talking with politicians about the choices that are out there.
One of the I suppose the verities of war on the Russian side is that they often take a hammering in the first year or so, and then they quickly learn and react and recover. Have we been too optimistic about the supplying Ukraine with the weapons it needs and its action against the Russians? Put it in a very short terms, we're in for a long war, aren't we? Do you think?
I fear we are, and again, I wouldn't need to tell anybody in Poland about the strength in depth of Russia and its capacity. It's a nation that's had a very bloody history. It has a capacity for suffering that I think Western Europeans certainly have difficulty understanding. It's taken up most extraordinary kicking in the Donbass area, and I think we had some hopes that with enough supplies to the Ukrainians, what might happen is the Russian soldier would collapse. They've held on long enough. They're very good in defence. We know this traditionally.
They're prepared.
Big prepared minefields. Everything that Germans would understand from the Second World War. And they have got the capacity, of course, which they're doing now to mobilise for put the whole country on a war footing. Which, of course, Ukraine has done, but it's just not. It does not have the same capacity unless it's Western allies, particularly the Americans. But Poland's been a very, very, very staunch supporter. I think the British have been very, very staunch politically at the start as well, which I think is recognised by the Ukrainians. And I think we've, Ukraine, as trite expressions, is doing our fighting for us at the moment, and we're using Ukrainian blood, albeit supported by sort of NATO, American, Western treasure in the form of ammunition supplies. But if we're serious about really countering the threat that Putin's Russia poses to us, then we need to be even more forward-leaning in supporting the Ukrainians.
But it's also part of Britain's historical policy to finance war on the continent, as it did against Napoleon, for example. So it's perfectly logical to play to British strengths, isn't it?
Yes, I think, again, it's looking back on the roles of the armed forces. Yes, of course, there's territorial defence. There's been a very global aspect of that for many, many years, since the 16th century, which I would argue is still important. And the third one has always been, if I may say so, to keep a balance of power in Europe and to stop an individual nation dominating, be it the French, the Germans, or the Spanish, or the Russians in due course. So I think we do have an important role to continue to lead a sort of coalition of the willing. We're very firmly a strong NATO member, even though we came out of the European Union. We're still a very important European power. And I think that is a role that Britain should seize and be proud of seizing, acting as a cheerleader to get people, and a transatlantic link, of course.
As we draw this our discussion, fascinating though it is, we must draw it to a close. Just a last question: what do you say to the movements, the politicians who, moving back to our fence question, would say, well, Ukraine just should move the fences and give away part of their territory, and they'll get Russia, they'll appease Russia? That's presumably not a
I think we're back
option.
to an understanding of history. Keep feeding the crocodile, just whet its appetite. I mean, it was just such a grotesque, blatant, predatory move by the Russians against the Ukrainians, supported by, I'm afraid, the abuse of mythology of history, that we really do need to understand the existential threat that Putin's Russia presents now, and I suspect for the next generation.
Yes, never take a holiday from history, to use your terms. Thank you very much, General, for coming on to the programme. Stay with us at TVP World.